Okay, power of a product and power of a power. So these are our expressions. Notice it's power of a product. So it's taking two things that are multiplying and raising them to a power. And then we have power of a power. So notice this power is raised to another power. We did some simpler ones in our foldable that you could go back and look at if you wanted to. All right, so we have x times y cubed. So if I have x times y cubed, this cubed means whatever is inside of this parentheses, I have it 3 times. So I'm going to have x times y, there's 1. X times y, there's 2. X times y, there's 3. We no longer have to write it with the parentheses because when you expand it out and do what the exponent is telling you to, then you don't have to have the parentheses anymore. Now, we have x, x, and x. So we have x times x times x. Then we have y times y times y. So then I could write it, since there are 1, 2, 3 x's, I could say x cubed. Since there are 1, 2, 3 y's, I could write it as y cubed. Remember, based on our foldable, we just said you have to make sure that both parts get that cubed. Okay, now here's the power to a power. So if I have 3 squared cubed, so if I have 3 squared 3 times, so I'd have 3 squared times 3 squared times 3 squared, because it says there are 3 of them. Now I'm going to go ahead and expand these out. So I have 3 times 3. This one I have 3 times 3. And that one I have 3 times 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I could write it as 3 to the 6th. Or if you remember from our foldable, you would just multiply these two numbers together. So 2 times 3, 2 times 3 is 6. And there you have it. Remember, you don't actually multiply these 3's out. I kept seeing on the assignment that some people would put, okay, well 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27, and they would put 27 to the 6th. We are just listing how many 3's are there total. So there are 6 3's total. Okay, let's look at the next one. 6a to the 4th. So I have 6a 4 times. So 6a, 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 6a. Okay, come think about things together. So how many total 6's do I have? So 6 times 6 times 6 times 6. And then we have a times a times a times a. So I have 6 to the 4th times 1, 2, 3, 4. So a to the 4th. Okay. And again, you don't have to write that times, just like I didn't write it there. You don't have to write it between those two because we know that it's an implied multiplication. All right, now this next one. There are 2 ways that you could do this. So we have 3x to the 0 y squared squared. You could cancel this x to the 0 out right now and just to make it a 1. But just to keep consistent with the way I was doing it, I'm going to write them all out. So I'm going to say 3x to the 0 y squared. Remember, it's squared, so I have to write this twice. So times 3x to the 0 y squared. Now let's look at it. You always want to look for zeros first because it makes your life easier. So that's a 0. That's to the 0. So those are just 1's. So you could write it as 3 times 1 times that, 3 times 1 times that. But again, 1 times anything is just whatever you multiplied it by. So I'm just going to look at it as 3 times 3. And then I have y squared, y squared. Well, y squared is y times y squared is y times y. So y to the 4th, or 2 plus 2 is 4. So it would be 3 squared, and then y to the 1, 2, 3, 4, or 2 plus 2 is 4. Okay, last one. Okay, so now if we have m squared times 4m squared, I'm going to write them all out twice. Okay, so I have m squared here, which is m times m. I have an m here. I have m squared again, m times m, and m. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I have 4 times 4. Now, in math, because math people are weird and they like to have everything in a certain order, you will always see it with the numbers written first and then variables afterwards. So I'm going to actually write the 4s first. So I'm going to write it as 4 times 4, which is 4 squared. And then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 m's. So I'm going to write it as m to the 6th. Remember, when you don't have an exponent shown, it's like saying that you have a 1. So don't forget to count this m and this m as well.